Welcome to the Skull King Football Podcast, presented by Fox DFS Firelines. Now, here are your hosts, Justin and Ryan Skullrood.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Skull King Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullrood, and I've got my brother Justin with me tonight.
How is it going, everybody? Week 4 is upon us.
We have a fun well, I keep saying we have a fun show. Are these shows actually fun? Are they?
Hell yeah. Or heck yes, as we are a family-friendly podcast.
Family-friendly show.
Family-friendly.
So, real quick announcement before we get started with going to the headlines and looking at some of the games that are coming out this weekend. Wanted to make the announcement that we actually, for our Sunday Swim League, for those of you who joined, we were way behind, but we finally did the drawing. There was a little confusion about this. The jersey and the picture were not for the people who finished first and second. The jersey and the photo, which you can go back and look at all the announcements that we made about it, were for 2 people in a random drawing of everyone that joined the league.
Yes.
So the only prize that we had set for that was if we had won that Sunday Swim contest that was run by that website and filled our league of 100 first, then our first place person in that league would have gotten $100. So right now we don't have a thing picked out yet for
the winner.
The winner. We will. We're working on that. Like I said, we're a little behind. We're getting there.
There's a lot of fantasy football analysis that's going on right now, and we're a little lacking on the giving out of the prizes kind of thing. But hey, you're getting it for free.
Yeah. So we're doing what we can to get all that information out. We're working hard to make sure that you guys have the information that you need. We'll get the prizes out eventually.
Yeah.
So
we want you to win your league. No, I mean, Tevin Coleman jersey's great, but if you're 0-4 and the best quarterback on your team is Andrew Luck, you haven't been listening.
What if you're 1-2 and your best? Well, no, the best quarterback.
Best quarterback still should not be Andrew Luck.
It's not. Now it's Andy Dalton. At least for me. All right. Even better in the listener league. We should call the listener league the league of record now. I think we should just.
Okay, we can call that.
In the league of record, I am 3-0. I believe I'm technically in second place because I've scored the second most amount of points.
But hang on. Let's put this into context. You've had the least amount of points scored against you.
But I've also scored the second most amount of points of anyone in the league.
Semantics.
Let's put that into perspective. And I've
put
done
that in your pipe and smoke it.
And I've done that with Case Keenum as my quarterback all season. So, and David Johnson as my as the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you play in a PPR league and are really good at picking out wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm sitting at 1-2. Got a goose egg from Doug Baldwin, but there's good news coming.
And let's be honest, the only reason that I have no one let's turn that off. The only reason that I have the least amount of points scored against me is because Aaron, our new quarterbacks writer, basically had half of his team injured. And so he really had no choice but to play a couple guys because he ended up getting stuck auto drafting because he couldn't make the draft. And so he's got Le'Veon Bell.
That's what happens when you draft from Hawaii.
He's got Le'Veon Bell. I think he had Shady McCoy who was injured and couldn't play. He got stuck with a whole bunch of guys that, he really couldn't do much with his team this week. So that's really and he only scored like 37 points, and I think I scored 145 or something like that.
Anyway, let's get on to those news and notes.
So let's go ahead and get on with the show. We'll do some of today's headlines. So why don't we get started?
Today's headlines.
All right, for all of you people who drafted the Seahawks, Doug Baldwin, rejoice! This from Pete Carroll. Doug Baldwin should practice today and may play Sunday. Well, today was Wednesday. I believe he actually did practice today.
He did participate in practice today, yes.
So that means he should be good to go for Sunday. I'm still liking Tyler Lockett. He is being used very efficiently, I guess is the best way to put it. He is showing off the deep ball and the ability to make the big plays. So I think that both of them, if Doug Baldwin is in, I think Patrick Peterson shades him. That still leaves Tyler Lockett for a good amount of work.
Yeah, me personally, from a verified Doug Baldwin owner in the league of record, I am still not playing Doug Baldwin this week. I don't care what his injury report is. I don't care if his injury designation is gone. At the beginning of the season, he talked about being 85 to 90% for the year. Then has a knee injury and is out for a couple of weeks. They need him the rest of the year. They're not going to rush him on the field and risk him sitting out even longer. So he's going to be on a snap count is my guess. I'm still not starting him this week, even though he may get some production. Who knows? With his connection with Russell Wilson, he may find the end zone. But I don't feel comfortable, even in a deep league of 14+, I don't feel comfortable starting him.
Alrighty. Moving on. Eric Ebron, knee and shoulder, did not practice on Wednesday. It's possible that they're just giving him some rest.
And Andrew Luck still has no one to throw to other than T.Y. Hilton.
Basically. Alvin Kamara was limited at Wednesday's practice with a knee. They're just managing his reps. Titans coach Mike Vrabel said Marcus Mariota is doing better, and the plan is for him to start on Sunday. That was around noon today. I believe it has officially been announced that he will start on Sunday, even though he's having some issues with feeling. Well, Sunday he was still having issues with feeling in two of his fingers on his throwing hand.
Yeah, this is more the concussion of Blaine Gabbert. Excuse me, more the concussion of Blaine Gabbert than the arm health of Marcus Mariota. There was a report that there are still throws he can't make. So this is not something that I'm excited about. Bench everybody other than maybe a Deion Lewis?
No.
We'll get
bench,
that. We'll get to
bench
that
everyone but Derrick Henry. Let's be honest, because if he can't throw, they're not going to give a whole lot to Deion Lewis.
Derrick Henry still hasn't done much to make me comfortable playing him. So
no, but he's the only one that's going to get volume. Let's put it that way. So potato, tomato.
Yeah.
All right. Matt Breida with his knee did not practice on Wednesday. I think for now they may be managing him. We'll kind of see how that goes next couple days.
Do you really quickly? We'll probably get to this later on for our part deuce portion of the week 4 matchups. But right now, since that part is on my part of the show, do you think Matt Breida plays this week?
I don't know. I'd have to look again at what exactly is going on with his knee.
Hyperextension. I don't think he plays this week. Personally,
it's possible. Didn't he come back in right after he injured his knee?
He did play again, but I think if they're going to be serious about this year and not just say throw their hands up in the air and say we're done, they need to be a little bit more fragile with him. Alfred Morris is someone you could run into the ground because he's not part of your future plans long term.
True.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
so well, I think it's something to monitor. Just kind of look to see what they do over the next couple days.
More will come out over the next couple of days.
Yep. Oh, this one actually hurts me. From Up to the Minute Live, the Bucs are in a wait and see mode on Ryan Fitzpatrick, who this guy's being told who took the majority of the snaps in practice on Wednesday. One person described it as snaps a starter would take. Now, okay, I understand you are heavily invested in Jameis Winston. That if you look at a lot of the reports come out about what Jameis Winston during this suspension was running practices with former players and other athletes. He was basically running practice games every Saturday, was practicing every Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday, working out Tuesday, Wednesday. For the last 3 weeks, I understand you have a lot invested in him. Your current starting quarterback that you signed as a backup is outperforming anything that Jameis Winston has ever done in his career.
Or any other quarterback.
Or any other quarterback, for crying out loud. 3 straight games of 400 yards and 3 TDs. Yes, he threw 3 TDs in the game against Pittsburgh. But that's not the reason why you lost. You lost because your defense can't keep up and because you have no running game.
Yeah, plus 2 of those picks, he didn't really throw.
One of them was tipped, and the other one, your star wide receiver cut off his route instead of running through his route like he's supposed to, which we are all extremely annoyed about the fact that he continues to do that.
Yeah.
If the Bucs were smart, they would keep playing Ryan Fitzpatrick until he actually did blow up.
At least you play him through the bye week. Maybe back from the bye, maybe, but he's gotta continue to be the starter.
When is their bye week?
Week 5.
Okay, yeah, you at least play him this week.
Yeah, you got to play him this week.
All right. Giovanni Bernard was limited at Wednesday's practice. They're most likely just limiting his reps. Keep an eye on that situation because Mark Walton could be involved in the game against the Atlanta Falcons. Possibly, he's their actual backup. Marlon Mack hamstring returned to practice Wednesday, which probably kills Jordan Wilkins' value or what little value he actually had.
I think it kills Nyheim Hines even more, personally.
Yeah, well, Nyheim Hines at that point will just be
the punt returner.
The punt returner. So
if he doesn't fumble.
Yep. Josh Gordon, hamstring, remained limited at Wednesday's practice. However, I saw a report, I don't think it's here, from it was either Garoppolo or from either Rappaport or Schefter that that Josh Gordon, the offensive coordinator, has no problems thinking that Josh Gordon is catching on to the playbook and will be able to easily assimilate into the offense. So
yeah, Daniels believes that Gordon will play. So I don't know if I play him yet, but this definitely major player that this impacts. Dorsett, obviously, but then Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan was primed to have a huge workload, has not really done much with it. The Patriots really haven't done much and have played rather poorly over the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I personally dropped Hogan in a 10-team league because I like Boyd and was able to pick up Boyd and Ridley. So they're playing well. I'd rather have him. So,
all right. The Patriots continue to search for wide receiver help. Getting back to the wide receivers at New England, working out veteran free agent wide receiver Jeremy Curley. The former Jets draft pick was released by the Bills a few weeks ago. I think that Curley could fit in that system. I think the thing to look out for, which I don't think is coming up. Okay, which is coming up later. We'll get to that. There's other wide receivers out there that I think would be a better fit, which we'll get to in just a minute. So
yeah, for me, this is more the token signing of Bill Belichick signing a Bills player. That's really what this is.
Yeah. Juju Smith-Schuster didn't practice on Wednesday with an abdomen injury. Probably just
He'll be fine. He'll still play.
He'll be fine. He'll play. Okay, here's a defensive thing, and while it may not seem fantasy relevant, if you're thinking about matchups, this matters.
Or you play IDP. Or you play
IDP. Chargers defensive end Joey Bosa expects to be sidelined until at least week 9 after their bye. That's November.
Apparently, he took a play out of his brother's playbook because his brother's doing the same thing in Ohio State.
So, yeah. Keenan Allen with his knee didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice last Wednesday either. So they're again managing reps for their veterans.
Yeah, this is the same thing as a Julio Jones thing. Just because he didn't practice on Wednesday
doesn't mean he's not playing. Rams cornerback Marcus Peters is questionable for week 4 against the Vikings. Actually, from what I've heard, is he's not playing.
Probably not playing. No.
With a calf strain, I've still heard the timeline I've heard the most is 2 to 4 weeks. So,
yeah.
Rams cornerback. Oh, that's or Vikings. Vikings running back Dalvin Cook listed as questionable for Thursday night's game.
We'll get to it in the matchups, but I don't think he plays.
I don't think he plays either, which is the only reason I'm holding on to Latavius Murray right now. So, let's see. Chris Carson was limited to Wednesday's practice. They're managing his reps because he had 32 carries on Sunday. So
yeah, the man took a beating against Dallas. He played well, but he took a beating. 30.
And they're probably going to do the same thing with him on Sunday in Arizona.
Yeah.
And here's the wide receiver news that we said we were going to get to a little bit later. Wide receiver Rishard Matthews told A to Z Sports that he asked the Titans for his release and is planning on moving on. This is definitely interesting considering he signed an extension prior to this season.
He negotiated himself without any representation at all. It was just him.
And then, on top of that, he missed a lot of training camp, if I remember right. Needed to get assimilated into the offense, and he's complaining about his lack of targets now. But let's look at what's happened in this offense. Marcus Mariota, their star quarterback, got injured in week 1. I believe it was week 1. Had Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback in week 2 and 3. You're not getting many targets for anyone in that offense, to be completely honest. Now, if they grant his release, this is where we were getting back to the New England thing. I think he fits amazingly in that offense as a better than Chris Hogan, because he can run from the slot and he has breakaway speed. He can run inside and outside and has the speed to get away. And with Edelman coming back, think about this. I think he would kill Dorsett because I'm still not a big believer in Dorsett. Can you imagine Rishard Matthews and Josh Gordon on the outside with Edelman on the inside? James White out of the back and James White out of the backfield.
That would be a much better wide receiver lineup than they have currently. But yeah, at Tennessee, this has not been a great start to the Mike Vrabel era.
No, but
painful.
But okay, but let's think about this. Vrabel's a defensive guy. Their defense has actually been very good this year.
Yes,
and so I think that needed to be a point of emphasis this year.
And they've been sneaky good and streamable late last year as a defense in fantasy. So really the offensive struggles have been because Marcus Mariota has been injured and they've had to deal with Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback. And Derrick Henry apparently doesn't know how to run.
Well, but a lot of us in the fantasy world already knew that. The other thing you're looking at is Delaney Walker went out with an injury for the season.
Yeah,
so
that your number one target,
your number one receiver last year.
Yeah, number one receiver as a tight end went out.
So yeah, they're dealing with injuries that have really hurt their offense. So I'm not worried about that. So
yeah.
Anyways, moving on. That's the end of our headlines. Let's go ahead and get into this week's games. And
Thursday night matchup.
We will start with Thursday Night Football, which is now on Fox, which means I get to watch the Thursday Night Football games live. Yes, I'm still old school. I do not have cable. I simply have an antenna because I don't want to pay for cable if the only movies I'm ever going to watch are on Amazon Prime and Netflix.
Yeah, there's another amazing thing. It's called Reddit Streams. You can watch whatever game you want for free. No cable.
All right. So, getting into this, the Vikings and the Rams. We talked about this a little bit. Why don't we start with the Vikings? And, Justin, why don't you go ahead and dig into them a little bit?
For me, this is a game where I think Cousins can bounce back from his atrocious play against Buffalo. Great game week before against the Packers. I'm chalking up the Buffalo game to just a wash. Delete it. It happened. Move past it. Don't let it linger. I think this is something on a little bit of a short week. I think it helps Minnesota get back to what they're doing. They're like, hey, let's chalk it. We're done. Move on. That being said, I really only have Cousins as a quarterback 12 to 14 for this week. There are other quarterbacks that I like more. I think that you're still going to play Thielen, Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. I don't think Dalvin Cook plays. I think Latavius Murray is a solid play, RB3 type / flex. I know that he had a bad week last week when we said to start him and to play him. It was not kind to our rankings. That we submitted to Fantasy Pros. But there were a lot of people that felt that way, and no one saw Buffalo coming out and shutting everything down and Minnesota being down and having to pass the ball the rest of the way. So I think this is a great bounce-back game for Latavius Murray. Solid game. Dalvin Cook won't play, but Kirk Cousins should have a good one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Thielen's going to be huge in this game. He is averaging almost 15 targets a game. I mean, now I know that there was the one game where got in the red zone. Diggs finished with 2 touchdowns. It seems like that's kind of where the play calling is going when they get in the red zone, is going to Diggs. But when they're just looking for yardage and they're looking for security, they need a completion. He is looking at Thielen. I mean, 19 completions when they were struggling so bad against the Bills. 19 targets to Adam Thielen last week.
Yeah, that's some Michael Thomas level ball movement and target share.
So, going to there we go. Going to the Rams. I mean, the Rams have just a sick offense. Let's be honest. I mean, they're just
explosive. I think there's some potential weaknesses, maybe like tight end.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to play a good game to beat the Rams this year. I don't ever project anyone running the table, but they are by far the best team. Right now, with Talib and Peters banged up, the best shot you have is to try and outscore them. And I think Minnesota is equipped to potentially do that.
Possibly, especially when you've got the 2 starters out. I mean, looking at the stats. Let me pull this up real quick. Just look at their top 3 wide receivers. There it is. You've got Woods, you've got Cooks, 5 for 87, 7 for 159, 7 for 90. You've got Robert Woods, 9 for 3, or 9 of 3 for 37, 6 for 81, 10 for 104, and 2 TDs.
9 of 3?
So, sorry, 3 of 9. So 3 receptions on 9 targets. So Cooks is getting 5 to 7 targets a game. Woods is getting 9 to 11 targets a game. And Cooper Kupp is getting 6 to 9 targets a game. And all 3 of them have – well, see, Cooks doesn't have a touchdown, but he has the one game of 159 yards.
Yeah.
Kupp and Woods both have 2 TDs apiece. I mean, this is a dangerous team to go up against.
One question I want to throw at you. I want you to rank these three receivers in how they'll play this week against Minnesota. Between Cooks, Woods, and Kupp, how would you rank those three?
Well, I like the Vikings defense. They have a solid defense. It really, to me, it depends on who Xavier Rhodes is going to go up against. For me this week, I'm probably going Cooks, then Kupp, then Woods.
Yeah, I've got the same thing. I believe in Cooks more than I believe in Woods. So Rhodes and Waynes are going to be on the outside. That's going to be the matchup against Cooks and Woods. Kupp is going to be in the slot, lining up against different corners, those kinds of things. Potentially corner, potentially linebacker, depending on the defensive matchup or the defensive package that Minnesota puts out there. But I have the same thing. Cooks, Kupp, then Woods. Although Woods is the biggest body out there in the red zone.
Oh, well, other than Kupp. Because Kupp isn't little.
Yeah, I know. But to me, in the red zone, I would favor Woods over Kupp. Although Kupp has shown significant progress there over his inconvenient drops last year against the Seahawks in the red zone.
I believe I can't remember who posted it. I'll have to look this up. In terms of targets in the red zone, Kupp is in the top 5 in the league in terms of targets in the red zone. So that's, if you can find a way to trade for him, that's not in an explosive offense that's going to be scoring a lot of points. To get one of those guys that's top 5 in red zone targets, see if you can get him.
Chiefs and Rams, grab them all.
So,
and
Marty,
Falcons and Steelers and Buccaneers.
Just get everyone. All right, let's move on. Cincinnati and Atlanta. Justin, who do you want to talk about here?
I'll go with the Falcons. This is going to be another shootout. You and I both talked about this earlier in the week when we talked about
waiver wire and
waivers and Dalton and those kinds of things. But I'll let you talk about Cincinnati. Devonta Freeman is still questionable, and I'm leaning that he's going to be out. This is another thing like a Doug Baldwin where they're going to want to keep him as fresh as possible. Plus, Coleman is a solid player in the absence of Devonta Freeman. Can do a lot of things that Devonta Freeman can do. Yep. There's not much of a drop-off like there is, to use Cincinnati as an example, from Mixon to Gio. So I'm looking for Freeman to be out another week. They need him to be healthy. You're starting Coleman, you're starting Julio, you're starting Ridley, and you're starting Ryan. I have Ryan as a top 5 play this week against Cincinnati. And Hooper, I'm leaving him alone. He's got an okay floor with 5 points in every game. He did get a touchdown in week 2, but I'm just not excited about his usage. And in a shootout, they're firing at wide receivers, and they're probably going to need to keep Hooper back to block so Matt Ryan has as much time as possible to find people. So I like other options at tight end other than Hooper.
Okay. And in terms of the Bengals, I mean, we went over this in the waiver wire show. I really, really like Dalton this week. I mean, I went and got him on the waiver wires everywhere I could. Is it a problem that everyone, including Matthew Berry, likes Dalton this week?
I would consider it a problem. Berry's just I love the guy. He does a lot of work and puts in a lot of work. But there's just some guys where I feel if me and Barry are on the same wavelength, I get a little nervous.
Same here.
In position pieces. He's been good on Galladay, and I've been big on Galladay, and that's panned out. So
yeah, we were big on Galladay last year going into the season. So, all right. So with the Bengals, I think Dalton has a huge game this week. I mean, you look at the league rankings. Both teams are 16th and 12th in offense, 26th and 27th in defense, 12th and 11th in passing, and 22nd and 21st in rushing. So, I mean, these teams line up very, very well against each other, which means it's going to be a shootout. And if you look at the Falcons, who have lost both of their starting safeties and their middle linebacker in the last 2 weeks to season-ending injuries, Dalton should be able to pass the ball like crazy in this game. Now, I understand that the Falcons still have some decent corners, especially Trufant. However, when you've got Tyler Boyd, and I believe at this point A.J. Green is still healthy, and
Eifert is healthy so far.
For now. Eifert is healthy for now.
We haven't hit week 5 yet.
Yeah, and I believe that in terms of their safeties, I believe that Keanu Neal is the one that would usually come down strong safety to guard tight ends. So that could leave Eifert open for a big game as well. I think that Dalton throws the ball all over the place and finishes with 3+ TDs.
So you think he can have a first and second half like the first half he had against the Ravens?
True. Well, they were up enough on the Ravens in the first half of the game that they kind of just went to the run game after that and didn't have to throw the ball around as much.
Yeah, but the Falcons are not the wet towel of an offense that the Ravens are.
True. But yeah, I think that the Bengals can. I think that Dalton can have a big game, and again, I think that Tyler Boyd is a flex play for now. I mean, I know that he's had a couple of big games, but if AJ Green's in there, I think he's a flex play. AJ Green can be an elite number 1 when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Eifert is a streaming option this week. We don't usually. I mean, because of just his inability to stay healthy, we've kind of dropped him off the radar. But he is a streaming option this week at tight end. And Gio, again, as long as he's healthy and playing, he's an RB2 candidate. So
yeah, once again, Eifert is streamable because of the matchup. Once again, you and I like to wait on tight end, play matchups off waivers, and we never carry a second tight end. So it's one of those things that I may keep a tight end and then I'll keep that person and then pick somebody off of waivers. Eifert was someone that I had tried to target in a fab system, but I was not spending more than $1 to get him, especially on once again, streamable tight end. So if you're in a fab system, on streamable tight ends, unless your starter has a bye week and you need something, you don't spend more than $1 to pick up a guy, or you wait and pick up something later in the week.
Yeah, agreed. All right, moving on. The Buccaneers and the Bears, 2-1 teams against each other. This is going to be in Chicago. And you've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who should be starting this game.
Is starting.
Okay, so
calling it right here. Bold take.
This game is supposed to be in the rain, so that could put a little bit of a damper on the pass game for the Buccaneers.
I think it'll still be fine.
You've got the number 1 offense in the Buccaneers going against the number 5 defense in the Bears. With the number 26 offense in the Bears going against the number 31 defense in the Buccaneers. Mitchell Trubisky is a black hole of production.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, that's a very bad thing.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, matchup, to me, Mitchell Trubisky has got to find some chemistry with Trey Burton. Right now, Trey Burton has been wildly disappointing, although he did catch the shovel pass for a touchdown. But he has been missed numerous times in the end zone when he's been wide open. He's been missed on – there's a play-action pass against Seattle where Trubisky had no one around him, Trey Burton had no one around him, and Trubisky just couldn't fire the ball, just decided not to fire the ball deep. The thing for me in this for the Bears, I should say, is that for those of you who were Jordan Howard believers like myself, the concern coming into the season was that Tariq Cohen, the usage that he had last year, would continue, maybe increase if Jordan Howard began to struggle. Now, Jordan Howard has been more involved in the passing game this year. Tariq Cohen is borderline droppable in most leagues because of his lack of production so far.
Well, in 10 to 12 team leagues and lower, if you're in a 14 team,
Yes.
I mean, in our league of record, it's 14 teams. I'm holding on to him.
Yes, because
there's
he's
enough
a running
production.
back. Yeah, he's a running back. You need the depth in that deep of a league. You got to hold a number of running backs that are backups because you don't trust. You can't trust trying to pick something up off of waivers in that deep of a league. Now, I like Allen Robinson. I'm not excited about a Taylor Gabriel or Anthony Miller. Trey Burton, I think will have a solid game.
Anthony Miller's they're looking at a shoulder issue with him from the last thing I saw. So
yeah, so you're looking at maybe that helps Trey Burton because in 3 wide receiver sets, he's going to be out there. Or do they throw Kevin White out there?
Going over to the Buccaneers, obviously you're going to start Fitzpatrick. Yes, I know it's a top defense and it's in the rain, but you've got a guy who's throwing 400 yards a game because he has to. They have no run game whatsoever.
Yeah. Peyton Barber has been a massive disappointment.
Well, again, Peyton Barber was only the starter the last couple of years because of injury, not because he was the best running back.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I think they would be a lot more productive if they just kept Jaquiz Rogers in there, but that's just me.
Yeah, because he can catch the ball.
Yeah. In terms of plays, obviously, again, Fitzpatrick, you're going to play Evans. Deshaun Jackson didn't get a whole lot of play this last game, and really his biggest play ended up getting called back. It was a punt return for a touchdown that got called back because of a penalty. I'm going to beat the Chris Godwin drum over and over and over again. Last week, I want to say he actually out-targeted Evans. Or at least
he has got more targets than Jackson almost all season.
Yeah. So Jackson's just caught all of his targets.
Yes, and takes it to the house. He's a glory play.
Yeah. So Chris Godwin, again, minimum of 40 yards a game and has a touchdown in every game so far. So solid flex play, wide receiver 3 at minimum. So
that's Godwin, right?
That's Godwin, yes.
Yeah, I would have Godwin above Deshaun Jackson personally. Still finishing my rankings for the week, but I like Godwin's target share, especially in PPR, better than Deshaun Jackson. I would probably give Deshaun Jackson the edge in standard.
True.
Because of the deep threat ability. And he doesn't need as many targets to get the yards as a Godwin would.
Correct. And as far as O.J. Howard, you're going to start, I like the fact that Cameron Brate got involved. I like Cameron Brate as a tight end. He's just, with how much they're spreading the ball around, I think O.J. Howard is the more likely to take it to the house. Brate needs more targets in order to really be productive. And I think, personally, as long as it's more likely to be Cameron Brate once Jameis Winston comes back.
To me, what I have seen in the first
or
3
maybe more split.
Yeah, I think it would be more split than but what I have seen from O.J. Howard over these first few weeks is, once again, this is only his second year, and tight ends generally, rule of thumb, tend to explode more year 3, year 4 kind of a thing. But I think you're seeing elite level talent like a Travis Kelce, like a Zach Ertz, in the fact that he's a big bodied receiver. You can't beat him one-on-one in coverage because of his size and his athleticism and his ability to do stuff after the catch is where a lot of his value lies. So if you have O.J. Howard, I would continue playing him regardless of matchup. Now, when Jameis comes back, I would still play him, but things could change at that point.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The next game we are covering is Detroit and Dallas. This is going to be at Dallas.
You mean Detroit versus Ezekiel Elliott?
Basically, their offense is 30th. Their passing is 31st, but their rushing is 7th, thanks to Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I am honestly considering I'm honestly considering dropping the New England defense because of how anemic they have been and picking up the Detroit Lions to stream against the Dallas Cowboys because of how bad Dak Prescott is.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up here.
Yeah, go ahead and pull up we've a friend of ours that we're in a sports discussion group.
Yeah.
A Facebook sports discussion group with posted a meme. Do you have it up yet?
Not necessarily a meme. It was posted by CBS Sports earlier that over the last 13 games, Dak Prescott and Brock Osweiler have
almost
basically the same numbers. Dak Prescott, 2,400 yards, 10 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Brock Osweiler, in the last 13 games he played, had 2,325 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. So this is not a great performance from Dak Prescott, but he doesn't have anybody to throw to. I don't know what people are expecting from him. Cole Beasley right now is your number one receiver, and he's questionable. And even then, he has 24 fantasy points over 3 weeks. That's 8 points per week. That's not something that is reliable at all. So to me, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I would borderline drop Dak Prescott, even from being my backup. I'd look at massive other options because he's just playing horrible right now, and it's not going to get better because he doesn't have any trade.
Look to trade to get another quarterback.
Yeah, and you'd be trading on name only.
Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott's basically all you're starting from the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. You're not going to start their defense either because their defense has played somewhat well. Their defense is 3rd overall, but I want to say that's in yards. Dallas. Dallas is overall in yards. Yeah, 3rd in yards total given up.
That's not good.
No. As in 3rd best. They've only given up the 3rd least in terms of yards given up. They only give up 281 pass yards a game. 281 yards a game. 182 pass yards. Only 98 rush yards a game. 53 points. So, I mean, they're playing pretty good defense. Going into last week, they were leading the league in sacks after 2 weeks and did not get a single sack against the lowly Seattle Seahawks crappy offensive line.
That's saying something.
Yeah. It didn't help that, the Seahawks were keeping the ball moving and the defense couldn't get off the field. But because of this, I mean, honestly, I think the Dallas defense could be pretty good, but the offense for the Lions is been pretty good. Ninth in offense, 8th in passing, 16th in rushing. They finally got a 100-yard rusher. Finally.
Yeah, but are you comfortable starting Kerryon Johnson?
I would flex him.
See, I don't know yet.
I would flex him in PPR.
I am not comfortable enough yet because Riddick is still there as a PPR option in catching the ball.
But Riddick's production has gone down because of the fact that he keeps dropping the ball.
I understand that, but the problem also is this. Kerryon Johnson has 1 carry in the red zone. They're still going to Blount. Blount's getting mixed in between the 20s anyway, and then when it gets to goal line work, it is almost exclusively Blount. So to me, that's where my hesitancy to start Kerryon Johnson in this game is because, once again, this is, for the most part, still a wide receiver show.
Yeah.
Now, as long as Stafford can never repeat week 1 against the Jets, just a bad game. I would call that the Buffalo game, is what I would call that. Stafford, I'm nervous because Dallas has played some pretty good defense. I like other quarterbacks better. I have Stafford kind of 15-ish now. I like a Wentz, Fitzpatrick against an actual defense in Chicago, Andy Dalton against the Falcons, and Goff versus Minnesota better than Stafford. But you're going to play Golladay, you're going to play Tate, and you're going to play Jones.
Yeah, you're going to play all 3 of them.
Rank them real quick.
Tate, Galladay, Jones. PPR, Tate, Galladay, Jones. Standard, probably Galladay, Tate, Jones.
Yep.
Only because Galladay is more the big play threat, bigger body for in the red zone.
Yeah, I would probably keep it the exact same of Tate, Galladay, Jones for both standard and PPR because Tate's still getting yards. Like that, he's still going to be getting yards. Tate is a little bit more explosive in open field, in my opinion.
True.
So that's where I would see that one.
Okay. All right. Moving, and yes, I really think that the Detroit Lions are a team to stream this week against the Dallas Cowboys. So, moving on, we've got. Oh man, we need to speed this up a little bit. Buffalo against Green Bay. Let's see. There it is. We've got the second worst offense in the Buffalo Bills going up against the 23rd ranked defense in the Green Bay Packers. Now the Buffalo Bills have the number 11 defense in terms of yards given up, yet they gave up a crap ton of points because they kept throwing interceptions and giving.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for your defense not to give up yards when they only have to
go 30.
Yeah.
So I really think the Bills struggle in this game. I think the Packers may actually get something going. Rain forecasted for this game. Rain showers, high of 57. I think that Aaron Jones could get a lot of work in this game, running the ball after being back. I personally like Aaron Jones better than Jamal Williams. I think Jones is the better runner than Jamal Williams. I think Jamal Williams and Ty Montgomery are better catching the ball out of the backfield. But honestly, a lot of this hinges on how healthy is Aaron Rodgers in his knee.
Yeah, I would continue. You got to continue to roll him out there until
his leg falls off.
Until his leg falls off. Adams is an automatic start. I'm comfortable with Cobb as a wide receiver 4 flex play. I think Allison is still a playable player, but more than likely is best served on your bench for now.
He's a bye week guy right now.
He's a bye week fill guy. So if you have Devin Funchess on your roster, or I guess there's not really a receiver for the Redskins you would play above of Allison.
No.
So, Ryan, you have it as Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Ty Montgomery. I have it as Jamal Williams, A1, Jones, A2, really. I think they'll kind of split a little bit more. They split workload last week. But for me, the only bill you play is a LaShawn McCoy, and even then, it's more of a RB3 flex play depending on what your other options are. The Packers did just get scorched by Adrian Peterson. Now,
that was in Washington.
Good. It was in Washington, but it was also in the rain.
Yeah.
And Adrian Peterson is old. So I thought that was leading into that game. I was way wrong. I thought Adrian Peterson was going to struggle because he has had problems over the last 2 years in bounce. He's had a great game, and then he'd have a hard time playing in the next one just because of the ability to bounce back from playing, because it's a tough sport. But I'd be comfortable enough playing McCoy. And then Packers, Jimmy Graham is still dealing with an injury.
I think this goes back to, again, we talked about this being Seattle fans and seeing the usage of Jimmy Graham and looking over the past years of the Green Bay Packers and how they have used tight ends. He is not going to be a tight end 1 by the end of the season. And if he is, it's going to be like tight end number 10.
Yeah.
Or 12.
Yeah.
Because Aaron Rodgers has not really used a big tight end in forever. And the last big tight end that he used was in like 2008, 2009, I want to say.
Yep, Rodgers.
No. It was 2011, 2012 that Rodgers used a quarterback.
Yeah.
And it was
top 10.
Was a top 10 with 650 yards and 8 TDs.
I'm pretty sure that year, didn't he start with 4 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks too?
Something like that. So yeah, so it's been forever since Rodgers has actually used a tight end efficiently. They've tried it with was it Bennett last year? Didn't do much. Everyone thought that he was going to be great. Just they don't use the tight end. He throws the wide receivers. That's what it is. So I honestly don't like Jimmy Graham at all for this game or for the rest of the season. So moving on. Next game, Houston and Indianapolis. Let me pull that one up.
Yeah, for this one, I'm going to start real fast just based off time to get us going. But I'm calling it right now. Lamar Miller is finally going to get a rushing touchdown this season. The reason why his value has been lower this year is because he hasn't found pay dirt. When you get people like, now I'm not putting him on the same level as a Gurley or a Gordon, but when you get Gurley who's getting 3 touchdowns in a game, or Gordon getting 3 touchdowns in a game, Lamar Miller is going to drop back, obviously. But he has been a leading rusher going into week 2. He was the 3rd overall rusher in terms of total yards rushed on the ground. The Colts have not been good against the run all season in terms of fantasy production. They've been torched by it. So look for Lamar Miller to finally find pay dirt against a bad rushing defense from the Colts. The Colts have been pretty good against the pass so far in fantasy, 8th, I believe. Hopkins is starting. Fuller is starting. Fuller's currently questionable with a hamstring injury. So if Fuller for some reason doesn't go, Hopkins may be the number 1 receiver of the week, in my opinion, because there's no one else to throw to. But that Deshaun Watson, you're going to start in this game as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I took a minute to kind of look back. The last couple years, Lamar Miller last year didn't score a touchdown until week 4, and the year before that didn't score a touchdown until week 6. So he's a notoriously slow starter when it comes to scoring touchdowns.
Yes.
Which very well could be Bill O'Brien, the coach. So
yeah.
Look at the coming back here. Sorry, I'm going back and forth between tabs.
Yeah, no problem.
So many open. Being at home, the offense is struggling for the Colts. I think this could be a bounce-back game for Andrew Luck. The problem is he's thrown for less than 200 yards the last 2 games. He doesn't have the arm strength. When it came down to a desperation Hail Mary last week, they brought in their backup quarterback in order to throw it. So I don't know. I mean, it makes it hard to even trust T.Y. Hilton. Basically, I think this is part of the reason why Eric Ebron's been starting out so well. And why, Jack Doyle's been dealing with injuries, so he's been struggling as well. But I think that really he's had to throw short passes because he just doesn't have the arm strength. This could possibly be a bounce-back game. The defense for the Texans is ranked number 18 in terms of yards. I look for the Houston Texans to really get it going against a really bad defense for the Colts. I think DeAndre Hopkins has a bigger game, especially if Will Fuller is sitting. He's already dealing with a little bit of an injury in practice. But Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins are going to be must-starts as long as they're both playing. Deshaun Watson may have a little bit of a comeback game. And again, going back to the Colts, the only people I'm willing to start is T.Y. Hilton. You have to start him because he is the number 1 target. Eric Ebron, I think, is the better option in terms of tight ends. He's a streamer tight end.
Well, Doyle right now is still questionable.
Yeah, and Doyle's still questionable, so which puts even more emphasis on Eric Ebron. And, I think, again, if you're in a deeper league where you need the quarterback, Andrew Luck is a startable option. I believed in him beginning of this year. He is proving to not be what I was hoping. So,
yeah. To me, the only player that I would feel comfortable playing would be T.Y. Hilton in this game. Andrew Luck still is not really able to throw the deep ball with any consistency. There's a ton of injuries. To me, T.Y. Hilton, who is getting diminished value because of lack of the deep ball, but right now the Colts are sputtering because of injuries. This is like watching the Titans play.
Yeah, basically, really. All right.
Division, how easy is this division for Jacksonville at this point?
Seriously. I mean,
Blake Bortles can still be Blake Bortles, and this is going to be – they're going to win this division by 3 games.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next game. Speaking of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're at home against the Jets. Again, another pretty even matchup in terms of what the stats play out, not necessarily in what the actual talent on the teams. Jets 21 offense, the 21st offense. Jaguars 20th. Jets 8th in defensive yards. Jaguars 4th. Jets 21st in passing, Jags 18th, 14th in rushing, the Jags 13th. So again, according to the stats, this is a pretty even matchup. But when we look at the actual talent on the field, Jacksonville's defense is just stupid in terms of how good it is.
Yes.
And the weapons that they have on defense to attack. I think that Darnold is going to struggle in this game. I think that in terms of the offense for the Jets, the only people you are really, really looking at playing are going to be Quincy Enunwa because he is the number 1 target there, period.
Yep.
You and I discussed this a little bit. Robbie Anderson is borderline droppable.
He's a ghost.
And then Bilal Powell in PPR is the more likely option there.
Yes.
Because especially they're playing from behind, he's going to get some passing out of the backfield. That's about it. That's really the only 2 players that I'm really, really liking out of the Jets in this game. What are your thoughts on Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, I don't like either quarterback in this game. Leonard Fournette and T.J. Yeldon are still day-to-day coming back from their injuries. Obviously, you have to play Fournette. This is one of those things. Pay attention through the weekend to see who's playing and who's not. Of Fournette and Yeldon, whoever is healthy, you're going to play. If Fournette is good to go, obviously he's going to get the start. If they're both good to go, you still go with Fournette. Yeldon will still prove valuable in a pass-catching scenario. And then Keelan Cole, that's about it. Like, for both of these, I mean, really quickly on the Jets side, I'm not starting the quarterback. The 2 running backs are low RB3s, both of them. Quincy Enunwa is the only one I'm even considering from the Jets as a solid startable player.
Yeah.
And then Austin Seferian-Jenkins, if you're in a deeper league at tight end, once again, kind of
and you're set everywhere else.
And you're set everywhere else. Austin Seferian-Jenkins could be playable.
Yep. I like, in terms of the Jaguars, D.D. Westbrook, I believe, is a value play for DFS. He played very well the first couple games, had a few less targets last game, but, I mean, the whole Jaguars offense struggled against that Titans defense last week. So,
yeah.
One more game to cover for tonight. What do we got? Miami at New England.
The division-leading Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
With a 2-game lead over New England.
Yeah, 2-game lead at 3-0 against 1-2. And if you, oh my word, okay.
I kind of have a feeling that they're going to have a 4-game lead over New England. The way New England has played so far this season has been bad.
Okay.
And Miami hasn't really flashed from anywhere except for maybe Kenny Stills, but they're playing as a well-oiled machine and a well-put-together team.
Yeah.
Team. It's like New England, like the Tom Brady and Gronk show or the Tom Brady and James White show is pretty much all it's been so far this season.
The Miami Dolphins are 23rd in offense, 21st in defense, 19th in passing, 17th in rushing. When was the last time you can ever remember looking at the stats for the Patriots being 25th in offense, 28th in defense, the 26th passing team, and the 20th rushing team?
Probably the year that Brady went out with his knee injury in week 1, and probably those first 2 weeks, because they were still an 11-5 team that year.
Yeah, with Matt Castle. But even then, they were still passing pretty well. They were middle of the pack and just able to run the ball. Last time I remember the Patriots being this bad in terms of just statistic-wise was, God, probably 99. like just after their Super Bowl year when they were losing to when they lost to Green Bay. I mean, this has been epic bad. So in terms of the Patriots, you still kind of have to start Tom Brady. I mean,
yeah, you still have to.
You start Tom Brady. Edelman comes back next week, next week, not this week. So there's still one more game without Edelman. I'm cautious about starting Josh Gordon. If you're desperate, you have nowhere else to go, then he's a flex play. Boomer bust flex. James White in PPR is still playable.
Yes.
Sonny Michel, shown to be okay. Rex Burkhead just went on IR, so he is now their leading kind of candidate to be rushing the ball.
Yes.
And so I think the two running backs are playable flex plays, whether Michel in standard and White in PPR. But other than that, I'm not holding on. And Gronk's always going to be if Brady's the quarterback, Gronk you're starting. So
yeah, it's one of those things where I think this year James White is going to be that Deion Lewis player, and Sony Michel is going to be that Blount player. That's really how those two roles are going to pan out to me. Yeah. There's not a receiver that I feel comfortable with from New England. Chris Hogan has been a massive disappointment, borderline droppable. Unless you're in a very talented 12 team, put him on your bench.
Yeah,
Josh Gordon could come in and splash, but then again, at any moment, Josh Gordon could have a behavioral problem that gets him kicked out of the league. So,
yeah,
that's the
playing with fire there.
That's the fantasy life of a Josh Gordon owner. And so, obviously, you're starting Gronk. I think Gronk could have a big game. On the Miami side of things, Tannehill, I'm not comfortable starting yet at all. Kenyon Drake, you kind of have to because of the workload that he should be getting in each game. And then Kenny Stills is the only one I'm comfortable on the receiving side.
Yep.
Devontae Parker's an interesting play as he comes back healthy. This first game was, I think, a snap count type of game. Let me just pull up his numbers again. Devontae Parker, 2 catches for 40 yards. So not a whole lot, but I think they're going to ease him in. I think he has value in deeper leagues to stash if you have the available bandwidth on your bench.
Yeah.
But I don't like Albert Wilson. Jakeem Grant's not going to throw a touchdown every week. And Danny Amendola is borderline fragile. So Kenny Stills is the deep threat, is the number one. So you go with the number one on a bad team. That is perfectly fine. But I still don't like any other option here, regardless of how bad the Patriots defense is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. So, all right. Well, that's it. That's what we've got for these games. Sorry this show went a little bit longer. You got anything else to add?
No, that's it for me.
All righty. Well, we will not have an episode tomorrow. We will have an episode the next day, so I believe Justin's recording Friday night to come out Saturday.
Yep, should be out Saturday.
All right. So, again, we want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to the Skull King Fantasy Football Podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, whether you're on iTunes, Google Play, CastBox, wherever it is.
YouTube.
YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. We'd love to hear you guys' comments as well. Thank you again for listening. My name is Ryan.
And this is Justin.
And we'll talk to you guys later. Hey, Skull King Nation. Thank you for listening to the Skull King Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.